Own it, baby. So you can own your square. Hello. Well, hello and welcome to Center Square. I'm Pat Laurie, and I'm so glad that you joined me today because this is the start of something very exciting for me. So a lot of you know that I'm writing a book called Own Your Square, and this is coming out in about 6 weeks. So it's really like go time for me, right? So I figured that I would start a show to coincide with Own Your Square called Center Square. And this is what it's all about. It's about how to show up and shine on video. We are going to cover all things confidence, mindset, messaging, sound bites, the way you look, the way you feel. How can we build your confidence? You know, maybe you're being tapped on the shoulder to step up and do that presentation. And you're a little apprehensive because let's face it, you haven't lived your life in front of a camera, right? I have. And so now I'm writing all about it because I want to be able to share what I know with you, because I know it can be a little daunting to show up in this space and feel 100% confident. See, Bucky resonates with that message. So I'm going to be having guests every single week, and we're going to be talking about everything that matters to you to build your confidence in this square, because I want you to be a solid state. I don't want you to show up and be shaky. That's just no fun. I've been there before. Yes, that's right. Even a TV professional has been there before, feeling insecure, feeling not confident, and having to go on anyway. How can you overcome that? How can you push aside your fears and really rise to the top and show up with 2 feet on the ground confidently and say, I'm here unapologetically, like it or not? That's what my hope is for you and watching this show, Center Square. All right, so I got a question for you. Let me ask you about the last year, fitness been. Has your fitness gone uphill or downhill? Have you risen to the occasion or have you become a jelly belly? I mean, I know that we all have our routines that we've done over the last year. I personally have been doing a lot of yoga. I've been doing a lot of walking in the woods, but I have not been jogging in the woods like I was doing for 2 years prior. I just decided to, I don't know. I lost my mojo, right? And it's hard. Like when you show up in this square, right? You want to be confident. You want to look great, because I'm going to tell you, if the lighting's terrible, if your framing's off, if you don't feel like you're in shape, and these are all the things that play with your mind when you go on camera, you're not going to feel as confident. I know, because I talk to a lot of people and coach a lot of people about, I just don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I sound. I really don't like the way I'm showing up. So I am hoping to help you get over some of those things. But today we have a wonderful special guest with me. We are talking about fitness. We are talking about how you can show up in this square, how you can prepare for this square, and how you can really be in shape for Zoom. So how can you get those Zoom arms? Like, how can you actually get those Zoom arms? I want to know, because I want those darn Zoom arms. And joining us today is Shayna Schneider. She is with FitStyle. She's the founder of FitStyle by Shayna, and she's a certified fitness expert and also a fit stylist, which I'm super excited to talk about. Shayna, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm excited to be here and talk about fit style and getting you those Zoom ready arms.
Oh my God. I mean, you know what? I'm not there yet. I mean, obviously you have the sleeveless look going on. You are rocking it. But I mean, personally with me, that's one of the areas of my body that I'm a little insecure about. And I'm not afraid to say that. I pretty much avoid sleeveless at all costs. But I want to change that, Shayna.
That's right. Well, and fit style is there for you. And in fact, I know I use this word all the time. I throw it around, and I'm sure it's brand new for a lot of people. But, fit style is really about bringing fitness into your everyday life. Because what I find for a lot of people is that time is the biggest challenge. You're kind of like, where do I do it? When do I do it? And life just happens, or your things come up, right? And you're just like, when can I actually do it? You might be in
Well,
your square the whole
yeah,
time.
well, I know, and we're going to talk about that because you've told me that you can actually do exercises in the square without people knowing. So that's kind of exciting. But, I think you bring up a good point because a lot of people are sitting here at Zoom for like, 6 hours a day. And it's like, when do I have time to work out? But I think what your method might teach is sneaking, little moments in throughout the day. So let's talk about that. First of all,
Absolutely.
yeah, so we just need to get in shape. I mean, what have you seen? Because you've been
Mhm.
teaching people throughout the last year. Are people getting lazy, or are they more excited about getting in shape?
I think that people are looking for a way to get back into a routine. The pandemic kind of hit us all uh, as as a big shock, and it was kind of like everything just sort of came to a stop because you're like, I don't quite know what to do. Routines were completely thrown off,
Yeah.
and so that's why I think fit style really plays a big role at this point to help people find a baseline of fitness for their everyday life. And so I see people kind of getting ready and wanting to kind of bring things back into their everyday life. And I'm happy to be helping a lot of people do that.
That's awesome. Yes, let's bring it back. Facebook user says, yes, let's get in shape. Amen. And if you are
Yeah.
watching on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube Live, please allow Restream to show your comments so that I know who the heck's on here because we want to answer some of your questions, about
Absolutely.
how to get in shape and how to look great.
Mhm.
So give Restream permission. And so that's the thing. Yes, it is spring. I mean, if you're in the Northeast right now, you're walking outside and you're like, oh my gosh, it's like almost time for me to like show
You're
my
like the
body that I'm not.
sun, I feel it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, all right, let's talk about, well, first, what is fit style?
Mhm.
You kind of let
So
me know yesterday, so.
yeah, well, fit style itself is a way to bring fitness into your everyday life, literally. And it's about changing your perspective on exercise so that instead you think about movement throughout your day. And when you think about movement as this overall umbrella, it kind of allows you to not feel that pressure of just being like, okay, I have to do something for 30 minutes and I have to do, a hit or I have to do some other specific thing. Instead, the overall goal is movement, and then exercise kind of falls under that umbrella. And
So
so
is
I
it
think
like
that
cumulative effect maybe? Like of
ab-
do a little bit each, day?
yes, absolutely, because we want to create that baseline of movement to keep our bodies functioning appropriately. And, because when we are extremely sedentary, we're kind of giving signs to our body that say, you can go ahead and shut down, right? There are internal processes that break down sugars and fats and that just stop sort of functioning when we're sitting for extended periods of time. I like to say it's a simple thing. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. And that's how it relates to our bodies. So we want to be able to use them and move them. And, fit style, one of the fundamentals, really the first one is to just start where you are. And
Oh,
that can be right here in your squares.
I love it. All right, so you told me, that people can actually, you know, wear what they need to wear on a Zoom call, right? But
Mhm.
actually, I mean, to look professional, but then
Yep.
bum, ba, bum.
The reveal.
Sneak it in, right? Okay, I'm dressed for fitness right now, but you would never know it, right? So
That's
I
right.
have
Well,
my fitness gear on right under my jacket.
that's right. Layering is so essential. So you still look appropriate for your square. So let's say, someone has, you're logged into a meeting or you're doing that presentation or something like that. You can still be dressed to look good in your square, but you have that those workout clothes on so that you're ready for when you click off, or just keeping that kind of mindset for movement there. So I will say, I have my sports bra on. You can't see it, but it's there.
I've
And of
got my
course,
yoga pants on. I always wear yoga pants because then I'm ready to do anything. Like before, I walked outside and I did like air squats in the driveway, and then I went to go get my mail. So it's
that's
like you gotta just incorporate this into your day. But
exactly.
So, all right. So, how can we incorporate workouts into our day? Like, what can
Mhm.
we do around the house? Because I think
Well,
what you say is that your space is your gym, right? Don't
mhm.
worry about going to the gym, but your space is your gym.
Yeah. So I would say that as you're looking around your space, there are things that you can use to actually move your body or simply be something that reminds you to move. So let's start where we are, right?
Okay.
And simply the floor, right? If you have a floor, you
Yeah.
are ready to get in a workout because you can walk in place, you can do squats, anything where you have that floor. And, sometimes people say, what, walk in place? Can that really be something that you can do? And absolutely. And I will put a little plug into some of the live classes that I have, or even the 15-minute video I have on YouTube to show how you can get in a good walk, kind of brisk pace, right, in the comfort of your own home.
So it's not
But
cheating. It's not cheating to
go
walk in
ahead.
place.
Not at all. You're moving your body. It's really about how much you bring it to it. So I know it seems kind of silly, but trust me,
So,
you
yeah.
can absolutely. I like to say you can get in the little shimmer will start, aka a little sweat, even
Oh,
walking in place. But you're
I got
walking.
it. I
You
got it.
know,
Well, Bucky's exercising right now because you can hear him
yes.
barking. So he's like jumping through the front door. So he's doing a really good job of working out.
But
Um,
you can also be extremely literal in the sense of, think about which rooms you go into on a regular basis, right? Kitchen is one of them. We all hit the kitchen on a daily basis. And when we look around the kitchen, there are things that we can use for movement and exercise. Countertops are number one because they're great for working those arms, because I know you're interested in that. So we can use that to hold a plank, right?
okay.
Something simple like that.
Yeah. So I want to get my,
Mhm.
first of all, I I know we're going to talk about exercise, but I want to stress the point. Like, I feel like if someone sits for 6 hours a day on Zoom calls, like they
Mhm.
are just, they're just
Yeah,
really destroying their body. Their posture is down. They're just,
exactly.
what can you do to really, like,
Yeah.
okay, say that you have your Zoom space and then you have your kitchen, and it's like, what can you do between here and there? Like, what if you don't have a lot
Yeah.
of space at all?
Well, you know what? The starting where you are with good posture. So it's getting into a habit of what I like to call kind of a few fit style checkpoints. So let's do that right here, Pat, because I think that it also helps in how we present on our squares, but also how we feel. So starting with good posture, what does that mean? So first of all, the top of the head reaches for the ceiling. Your chin is going to be parallel to the floor. Nice. And now we're going to roll our shoulders forward, up and back, and just opening it up right here. Nice. And then take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. You got it. So we're starting there with that good posture. Now, if you're sitting down, you want to make sure your feet are flat on the floor. Sometimes we, cross our ankles and we do a few things that just make our bodies kind of start to hunch forward even more. So making sure that we start with that good posture already starts to engage our muscles and our bodies and just kind of wakes us up. Also, what's so good about that, if people who are watching too tip that deep breath with us, we
Mhm.
can feel that we can get in a bigger breath. So we're taking in more oxygen, because when we're hunched over like this, right,
Yes.
what's happening? You can see me from the side, right? Our lungs are actually being pressed together. They're kind of collapsing. So when we open it up with that good posture, we already are getting in a deeper breath, taking in more oxygen. And oxygen, an oxygenated body means an energized body. So that's really where you want to start, because sometimes what I hear also is that, like, well, I don't really feel like I don't have the energy to move. So this is one thing to just start where you are and kind of be that little energy boost to get you
And
walking, taking those
what
steps.
I find with posture, because I'm a petite, so sometimes it's
Mhm.
challenging for me to get my feet on the floor.
Yeah.
So I actually sit on the edge of my seat, and that's what I tell people. And I tell the people that I
Hmm.
coach, is when you sit on the edge of your seat, your back is straighter, so automatically your posture is going to be good. But
Hmm.
sometimes though these Zoom calls can be so long, and you're like, oh, I just want to get up, I want to stretch, I want to, but then you don't want
Yeah.
to be doing that while you're conducting your.
Hmm. Well, I will say though, because people are getting used to being on these Zoom calls, you do want to think about what you can do and being able to move around a little bit. So I would also say when you're looking at your space, how does it encourage you to move? And so think about, can you have a standing location for where you're working, where you're taking the Zoom calls? You can see from where I am, I'm actually standing up and doing this. So I'm able to kind of shift my weight a little bit, move kind of more naturally, so that I, again, keep that body engaged for a meeting that we're in right now.
And I do think that that's a great idea because I find myself sitting. I think most people sit for their Zooms, because we don't have these ergonomic desks at home. But I
Mm-hmm.
guess you can find, your kitchen island or whatever, something a very high surface, and
Yes.
then go with a laptop stand and put it up so that it's eye level, which is always the most beneficial for the camera lens.
Mm-hmm.
And then fool around with it. I always tell people to like change your location because that can change your
Mm-hmm.
energy and change your mindset.
Absolutely.
If you're excited about something or like, oh my gosh, here I am showing up again at the same space. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but you told me something yesterday, which was kind of cool because I was like, how can I get in these habits? Because I can never remember, oh yeah, it's time to,
Mm-hmm.
drop down and do, 10 push-ups. You told me a really cool tip about the coffee pot. So go ahead and share that with people.
Yeah. So fitness, bringing it into your everyday life, what I think is helpful is when you match kind of a movement or an exercise that you want to start doing with a routine activity that you're already doing. So we're going to work on our arms right now, Pat, because I know that that's our number one focus right now. Not that the whole body is not important and interconnected, but we're thinking about strength training those arms. So you think about your day and you say, okay, what's happening on a regular basis that I don't have to think about because it's just like go and do. And so in your case, and I will say in my case too, now it is getting coffee, right? It is making the coffee in the morning. And so there is that time period where either something's percolating or you're waiting for it to steep or something like that. That is a prime time for exercise. And I think, yes, and I think one of the things that's a challenge for people, sometimes you hear, okay, I have to do strength training, I gotta, pick up my weights. And there are a couple of things that we're gonna remove some barriers here, Pat.
Okay.
So number one, put your hand weights where you will actually use them and where the routine activity happens.
Okay.
So sometimes we think exercise equipment needs to go in, our little gym area or wherever it is. We've put it somewhere and then, either they get moved, particularly hand weights tend to be like under a couch, in a closet, somewhere else that you don't go to.
So I've always had my hand weights like within arm's reach, but
Mhm.
just like anything else, I just look at that as if like it's another object in my house and just walk by it all the time. But I think what you said about do what you can associate with a daily habit. So I know every morning I wake up and I go down to that coffee pot and I start the coffee.
Yeah.
That's a given. That's never not going to happen on a morning that I wake up,
Exactly.
unless I've run out of coffee and then I'll be like, running to the store to get it.
You're right.
But the thing is, I can remember coffee pot time to get the weight. And that's like
Right.
at least it's like a 3 to 4 minute brewing system because I have a small coffee pot. But
Yeah, which is perfect. And that's why your hand weights now can go next to the coffee machine. So that's exactly where they're going to be. And you've removed a certain barrier, right? Because you're right there and now you're looking at the coffee machine. You now have this time on your hands, right? Because time is the challenge. So we've now removed that because you're like, and I have an additional reward afterwards too, because I know the coffee is going to be ready. So being able to pick up those hand weights and do some exercises right there. And I'm sure I'll share some ideas with you on that front. But doing something consistently and connecting it to that routine activity makes it starts to make it a habit, right? Because then we don't have to expend the energy of like trying to remember or figure out where to do it in our day.
it's the so it's the consistency. And the problem is like even when I set alarms on my phone, I'll just ignore the alarms. I'll be like, oh yeah, an alarm, and then I'll move on. It's kind of like getting a headline from one of the publications, like, oh yeah, I don't have to just get out of my way with these notifications.
Yeah.
so that can be just super challenging. But I'm thinking maybe I should put one of these weights in my refrigerator.
I'm
You
not
know?
sure I would go that far, but to each her own. And I will say, that's what fit style is about. It is about finding these fit these ways to bring fitness into your everyday that works for you. You're creating your own style. So maybe the coffee thing doesn't work for everybody, but you're going to think about, what do I do on a regular basis where I can put those hand weights there? I know for me, I like to call them remote control arms. And I put my hand weights right next to my remote control.
I love
Because
it. Love it.
whenever I reach for that, I then pick up that hand weight. So like, instead of skip intro for the show, I'll actually use my hand weight.
Oh my gosh. Now you're really getting me to change my mindset about exercise. And
Yeah.
it's not that I don't exercise. I certainly do exercise. I walk every day. I do yoga, 3 times a week, but it's really the resistance training and the weight training that I want to get into. And for some reason, and it's not that I don't like it, I really like it a lot, but I just don't make time for it. So you're saying do smaller chunks of time throughout the day rather than one like dedicated, if that works for you, like 30 minutes.
Absolutely. And that works for everything. So for people who maybe they're not even as motivated or already moving as much as you are with these other types of exercise, you can absolutely break these things up into smaller chunks throughout your day. So 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. And then maybe there is a 30-minute thing at the end of your day, which I like to kind of encourage people to do as sort of a re-entry, especially as we're working from home so much. You want that time to kind of shift from work into maybe just the evening, no more Zoom or whatever video you're on.
So, so how many times should you work out per week, and for how long, really?
Yeah. So let's talk about, I do want to talk about two parts because I want to come back to the arm strength training too. So generally with exercise, we hear that you want to have 150 minutes throughout the week. So it's like 30 minutes a day. But what I think is even more important rather than tracking just those 30 minutes, again, is movement. It's how often are you moving? Do you have a baseline of, you generally need to move about every 20 to 30 minutes. If you are completely seated and just not moving, then that's the time to kind of get up, stretch your legs, do leg extensions while you're sitting there. That is, by the way, a definite exercise you can do even in your square, and no one should be able to know you're doing it.
Oh, so how do you do that?
All right. So
got a Charlie horse.
Oh no. So you're going to start where you are, Pat. So that good posture, right? Top of the head reaches for the ceiling. Now with this, you're really going to have to engage your abs. So what does that mean? It means you're bringing your belly button to your spine. Your abs are now nice and strong. And if you ever like cough, and you know how then your abs like pull in, that's how I want them to feel. Okay. Because your core has to be nice and firm. And now what you're going to do is your feet should now hopefully be flat on the floor. Your knees are bent in about a 90-degree angle. And you can extend one leg and then bring it down. And then I'm standing. So you're going to see me shift my weight a little bit and then bring the other. Now, I should not see you shift side to side.
Well, I'm not sitting at a traditional desk, so I can't leg forward, but I get it. Okay.
Yeah. And so that'll work for people. And if you want the double challenge, you try to lift both legs at the same time and then slowly lower down. And that'll definitely work your abs.
Okay.
And now coming back to, how often should we exercise? And I wanted to come back to the strength training, because it's important to know that as we start to increase the amount of weight that we're doing, strength training should really be about 2 to 3 times a week. But in order to keep up the habit, right, because it is about consistency, because sometimes you're like, oh, did I do my arms? Am I supposed to do them today? You still always think about arms and coffee. So what you're going to do is you're going to do maybe weights the one day. The next day you can stretch, right? But you're going to stretch your arms. And then you can rotate and just kind of go back and forth in that. Or you can throw in one other thing, because you've got a counter there. You could do weights one day, you could hold a plank the next day, and then the third day you stretch. And then you just keep rotating through, because again, you want that consistency to create that habit.
So what are the best exercises to get toned arms? Because I really want to work on these arms.
Well, I will definitely say that strength training is important. So, certainly bicep curls and I think tricep curls are very important because I know it's the back of the arm too that people are like,
Oh,
I definitely want to work that.
you go like that, the tricep.
Yes. So
Okay.
we can do them. You can do them a few different ways. So one way to do I'm going to show you something super simple for triceps. Okay.
Okay.
So all you're going to do is you're actually going to bring your hands down by your sides.
Okay.
And then what you're going to do,
Sorry.
nice, is it's okay. You're going to bring your arms. I'm going to go to the side so you can see me. You're going to bring your arms as far back as you can. You're lifting them up behind you. And
Okay.
now you're holding those weights and then just pulse, little pulses. So your arms
Oh,
stay back and then you just pull. All
okay.
right.
So
So
yeah.
the top of the head still reaches for the ceiling. Sometimes we like to lean forward if we're still up nice and tall and we're just pressing back. And
Okay.
triceps are the things that, we don't often use this muscle or we don't use it as often in our everyday life. So that's why it is helpful when we're doing strength training to target that if we're like, we want a little bit more tone there.
Yeah.
And
So
so I will say, go
something.
ahead.
How much weight should you use? Like, how do I know that this is enough? Like, it's just a
Yeah.
5 pound weight. I also have 8 pound weights, but what's the rule
Mhm.
of thumb? Like, should you,
Yeah.
do the first two fine and then struggle with the last, or like, how does that work?
You're definitely on the right track. So you want to start with a set that maybe is 8 to 12 reps is equal to one set. Okay. So you want to start there. And if you have a weight that feels like, okay, no problem, I can do this, up it to 2 sets. All
Oh,
right. Now by that second, set, you should feel like you are working. If you aren't feeling like you're working, you can definitely up that weight. Now, a
okay.
couple other things to remember though, because sometimes we use momentum and you're like, I got this, no problem. I should up the weight. No. We want things slow and controlled. All
Okay.
right. Because that's where you're really going to work the muscle. So, you know, also sometimes we'll take a heavier weight thinking we can really do that, but it's because we're doing the movement so fast. We're using that momentum to do it. We're not focused on the form. So you aren't going to get as much of that impact. So
All
slow
right.
and controlled and looking for
Slow,
that weight. Yep.
slow and control. Let me ask you. It's March. It's the beginning of March, right? So it's March
Yeah.
10th. So if I do this 3 times a week, if I do biceps and triceps and planks and some dips in the on the island in the kitchen
Mm-hmm.
consistently starting now, like
Mm-hmm.
how long will it take me to start to see a difference?
Yeah. So I will say everybody's body is different, but you need at least 6 to 8 weeks
Okay.
to start to see a difference. And remembering that you're, using the heavier weight to make those muscles really work because you want to feel like they're sore because that's what is going to that kind of breaks down the muscle so that it kind of comes back stronger. And
Hmm.
also keep in mind, especially for women, as we get older and just where we tend to hold more fat in our bodies, that can also be in the arms. So we're talking about movement and exercise, but of course nutrition plays a big role in our health and wellness and kind of fitness as well.
Right, absolutely. But I feel that like when I start weightlifting, I mean, sometimes
Mhm.
even after just one session, I feel like, wow, it's already starting to make a difference, which is
Yeah.
so encouraging in a way. But so,
Mhm.
what do you think? So, the top three exercises for getting like cut arms like yours, and do you do it like, do you happen to do like heavy weights or do you do lighter weights and more reps?
No, I usually do 5 pounds or 8 pounds.
Okay.
That's kind that I don't do anything heavier than that. It's about consistency
Mhm.
and yeah, and I think that's really the focus. And I will say that I'm in the midst of my arm toning program right now, actually. So Pat, maybe next time you can sign up. I'll have you join me.
For
So
sure.
with that, it's it's hard to say, do these 3 exercises in order to see definition, because in order to see definition, you actually have to kind of do slightly different exercises so that you have you really work the full arm and shoulder as well. But if you start with bicep curls and tricep curls and, some overhead presses, I think that that's a good place to start. And most people know how to do those exercises. Yeah. And then working on that consistency, feeling that, success for, starting where you are.
Well, that's great, because in 6 weeks, my book, Own Your Square, is going to be coming out, and I'm going to be doing a lot of interviews, and I'm going to, I really want to wear those sleeveless dresses. I really want to look great. What do you think about a stability ball? What do you think about like sitting on one of those balls during the day?
So I think that sitting on one of the balls is actually really great, because it definitely encourages movement, right? It's very hard to stay still sitting on one of the balls, and it gives you the flexibility and opportunity, to move. It's really important when you're using a stability ball as your chair, though, to really think about engaging your abs and still sitting appropriately, because you can still sit with bad posture on a stability ball. So you don't.
I'm sure you could, right?
So you still need to engage those abs and really think about starting where you are, with that good posture. But I think they're great. I mean, you can see the orange kind of thing in the background. That's actually a stability ball.
Oh, cool.
Gorgeous, right?
Well, the other thing I've been telling people is, if you can cut down on your Zoom, like maybe you can't cut down on the amount of Zoom calls you have, but maybe you can just change it to a 45-minute Zoom call or a 30-minute Zoom call. And then you have that extra time at the end of every Zoom call to, do something, to walk around the house, to get outside your front door, to, to go out and do some jumping jacks, or, release some energy,
Well, I do think that, asking people if it can be without video, depending on the meeting, right, is definitely an option, because then you could walk and talk, right? Can you ask people, can we instead have a walk and talk? And so it's not that you have to walk together.
Right.
You could.
It's liberating, though, because it's like, a lot of us multitask when we're on the phone. Or not, intentionally, but this happens, but when you're there, it's like, you got to be present, because if you're not, people pretty much notice that right away. And the last thing you want to do is ignore someone when you're on a video call, because then they will really be, not a good thing.
And I think using certain aspects of the video call to remind yourself to check in on your posture. So it could be the minute you say, join meeting, that's where you do the kind of check for yourself for, the good posture. When you say end meeting, that's when you stand up. It's like you press end and you stand up to, again, turn your body back on, stretch your legs. And it can be as simple as that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So another thing that comes up a lot of times is like, how many steps? Because a lot of us have these tracking devices, I've got my Fitbit here, but how many steps should we do a day? What do you think a good goal is? And I mean, I know everybody's different, but what do you think is a good baseline?
Yeah. So I know everybody's familiar with the 10,000 steps a day. That's kind of the thing that's been out there. And that's while that's great, it's a little bit more of a marketing tool, because everybody can kind of remember that. As far as studies go, our goal can be around 7,500 steps per day. Now, if those still feel kind of out, just really hard to reach, then start where you are. Start by seeing how many steps you're actually getting on kind of a daily basis, and then start to ramp up from there. I usually try to, when I work with people, I usually say kind of, where are you? And then maybe add like 500 steps to that. So if you are at like 2,500 steps, you go to 3,000 and see if you can be consistent with that. And then keep inching your way or stepping your way up to that 75,000 or 10,000.
That's a good goal for sure. Because that's easy too. And it's fun. It's like, ooh, I've only done 2,600 today, which is very bad, but I'm going to be working out a little bit later. But that's, that's important. And then, also, I'm sure a lot of people have been going out taking walks, but, even though I have my 3 favorite places that I like to walk, sometimes it's like, oh, here I am again. Here
Yeah.
again at this spot, it's just the monotony of it all, it's people get
Well,
stuck
and
in ruts, right?
they do. And I am a big fan of walking. I will say it is probably the best exercise out there because everybody can do it. You can change the pace and, the intensity and all of that. But, as we're kind of looking at these different routes and heading back to the same places, how do we switch it up is kind of what I hear you asking. And I think something that has started to kind of increase in popularity is something called like awe walks. So what's an awe walk? And it's like, sounds a little weird. But
Oh,
what it is that you take a walk and instead of kind of focusing inwardly, because a lot of times we're walking and so it's like you're thinking about your to-do list or you're thinking about this next thing. Instead, you take that and you present yourself kind of outwardly and you look around at things in a new light with a new perspective. So one example, something that I actually did recently because I've walked this route, yes, like the umpteenth time, right? I'm like, I could walk this route with my eyes closed, kind of thing, right? But
the
instead,
pandemic, we all have them.
but I opened my eyes and I decided I was just going to look around at the light fixtures
Mhm.
on the houses. And I
Oh,
I was just like kind of in awe of like, oh, the diversity. I didn't notice that before. And and it seems something simple,
yeah.
kind of odd even, but what it does is that it disconnects you from that kind of internal chatter that's going on and connects you to something bigger and broader outside of yourself. And that has all kinds of health benefits for mental as well as physical.
Yeah, I like that because a lot of times we are just sort of, going through the motions when we're on a walk because maybe we're listening to a podcast and it's like you don't even really
Hmm.
know where you're going. But the
Yeah.
beauty of being outside is to actually just unplug and notice that, you're not inside anymore. So take
Yeah.
advantage of that. I guess we can't ignore the fact that if you really want to incorporate health into your everyday life, you have to be
Mhm.
mindful of, your water, and that also plays a huge role in
Oh, yes.
good as well, right?
Hydration is important. Absolutely. And in fact, I'm so glad you brought this up because I have to say the water bottle is honestly my favorite fitness accessory. And you're like, how is that possible? Well, number one, it absolutely is there to help you stay hydrated. I mean, our bodies are made up 55% or more of our bodies made up of water. So we need to make sure it's replenished.
Absolutely.
But also as we drink more water, it also makes you have to go to the bathroom, which means you need to get up and take steps. And I'm all about how every step counts. So that's
How
a
many
key thing
steps
there.
do you do a day?
I usually, it depends on the day, but somewhere between 7,500 and 10,000 steps is
Okay.
usually kind of where I am. But I will say on, colder temperature days, that's where I can get in my steps with the on-demand classes and the live stream ones
Yeah.
that I do. So I definitely walk in place and have kind of a walking based workout indoors too.
I'm
Oh,
gonna
but I wanted to just tell you, Pat, for one other thing about the water bottle, because once we fill it up, right, it becomes a light hand weight. So if ever you find yourself in a place where you're like, oh, I don't have my hand weights, but I'd like to work them out, you can absolutely use that water bottle as a little light hand weight. And in
uh,
which case there you're going to focus more on, you can increase the number of reps because it's not as heavy.
I love that. Reminds me of when my son tried to build a weight machine in the basement, and he took two gallon jugs of water and like or something. This was like at the beginning of the pandemic, and it was like,
Yeah.
okay, is that your weight work?
Well, I would say that's very fit stylish of him, trying to figure out
It
using his space for
Yeah, but
fitness and movement.
I think that you just have to, pretty much use what you have, and so you do also these online courses, right? You do online classes and also reminders, right? Tell me about.
Yeah. Yeah. So um, I do because obviously it's all about if time is a challenge, I'd like to be able to offer different classes, all about 30 minutes to walk. I have a walking based workout. I have one that I like to call the Fit Style class. So that combines like a 15-minute indoor walk, kind of energy boosting walk, along with some arm toning that we do. So 10 minutes of arm toning, all right there with a little bit of a stretch. And so people can sign up on my website to see the whole schedule that's there. And in fact, I'd love to put out a little plug. Anybody who watches this and heads over to my website, you can sign up as a guest on at least one of the classes. Just put in Center Square.
All right, and what's your website? I'll put it in the comments.
Yeah, it's fitstylebyshayna.com. And click on over to the classes, and Center Square will be your host for a class.
Oh, I love it. Is that all one word, Center Square?
Yep, yep, all one word.
Wow,
awesome.
That's really nice of you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yes, of course. And so there are classes, but the other important part, and this is what you were talking about too, is that we kind of get involved in our day and we need those little reminders, and also feeling like someone who can hold us accountable. And so I have something called Mindful Motivations, which are text messages that remind you about taking that sip of water, checking your posture, right? Making sure that those shoulders are rolled back and you're not giving into the gravitational pull of the screen. And what's nice about this is that it's little things that come up every couple days or so, and you can respond back and you will get motivation, a little more motivation from me to kind of keep you, as I like to say, oh so fit stylish.
I love it. I love it because I think, most of the success in a lot of programs is the accountability factor, because you can have the information, but if you're not doing it and you're not being held accountable, then where are you really getting? And it's, I write lists out, I try to follow programs, but without someone sort of like making sure that I'm doing it, I put off a lot of things.
Yeah.
Amazing what you
and
can put up.
And I think it's kind of the difference between, we have the Fitbits and things like that give us the little reminders of that. It's like, but I can ignore it. No one's really there to check me.
Exactly.
It's a gentle nudge, it's there. I'll say, text me back after you've done this, and, I'll give you that little high five. And
that's exactly the encouragement that people will need. So in closing, can you just give us 3 final tips for starting your exercise regime?
Yes. So I'll say, start where you are with good posture, because without that, you're not kind of going anywhere. Then the next thing I say is take a stand for your good health and wellness. So look for those opportunities to stand up more rather than sitting down. And the last one I will say is, remember that your space is your gym. So look around, see when you take those stairs, take them maybe 2 at a time, right? Look how your space can really support your movement. So hand weights by the coffee machine, right? Rather than under the couch.
Right after I get off the
And countertops have now turned into another arm machine. One little joke again about space being your gym is that I like to show people a chair and then say, I'm now introducing you to your new squat machine. Because that's exactly what you do as you get up and sit down from a chair.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So it's thinking about the furniture around your house in a whole new way, really.
Yeah.
Your kitchen island could be your tricep dip, station, or you can
might be a little high for that, but
well, I guess you could do some push-ups that might be on an incline.
Exactly.
Right?
You can definitely still work those triceps that way.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, Shayna, thank you so much for joining me today on Center Square. We're so happy that you help, share information, because it's so important that when we show up in this Zoom area that we realize that, hey, life is also occurring outside the square. We need to be confident when we show up in the square. Let's get to it. All right.
Feeling healthy and well and fit stylish. So thank you so much.
I got to put my jacket on and continue with my day. So thanks for that.
You go.
All right, Shayna, you have a great day, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right. Wow. Okay. So you know what? I'm going to start to make some changes in my life. because I'm tired of making the excuse of, I wish I could wear a sleeveless dress. I wish I could wear a sleeveless top and feel awesome in it. I am going to be wearing that sleeveless top, and I'm going to start today, and I'm going to be accountable to myself, and I'm going to really look around my house and figure, like, where can I sort of like make those changes? Hey, listen, I want to thank you so much for joining me on Center Square today. If you want to have more information about how you can show up and own your square, please head on over to ownyoursquare.com. That is my website. And I have a bunch of shows on there. I've got video tips. There's all kinds of information if you'd like to learn more. In the meantime, I hope that you learned something today and I motivated you to show up and shine, right? Because that's what it's all about. Show up, help, inspire, notice, and elevate. Let's all lift together, everybody. I'll see you next week on Center Square. Until then, I hope